All right. Looks like we are back. So Devin, let's get into it feet first. What are we looking at today?
First off, we're going to talk about a big announcement we had this week, which we're really excited about. And that is that we now offer proactive detection at no additional cost, and it's on automatically. So what does that mean for y'all? Well, if you're visiting New Relic 1 as a user and you go to the homepage, you're going to see here on your activity stream a new class of information. That's anomaly information, and that's going to light up. You don't have to do anything. You just log into NR1.
All right, let's hop over to the screen share view, Mia, when you're ready. All right, we're seeing it. We're seeing it.
Are you seeing it? Cool. Yeah. So like if you have data coming into New Relic 1 from APM, you'll see here, for example, Plan Service is an app in our demo environment that's got an anomaly showing up.
Let's see if we can zoom in and enhance by like one step without ruining our justification. Can we give us one? Give me one little nip of zoom.
Oh, you want me to zoom in? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the activity stream. Cool.
Yes. Oh, I love it. All right.
So I was about to bust out the bifocals, but I was like,
we got the warning violation open, right? So people might be logging.
No, ignore that. That's alerts. Let's just show you the anomalies.
Yeah.
No, Nate's a former New Relic alerter. We don't want to talk about alerts.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about alerts.
Don't care about that.
Alerts for those playing along from home, and sorry to interrupt, Devin. You know how I am. So
indeed.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission. But alerts, right, is you set up, hey, warn me when this happens, right? That's of course, that's not going away. That's not changing. But now we're adding anomaly detection, which is stuff that is happening that looks real bad to an automated system, but that you didn't know ahead of time was going to happen, right? You weren't like looking for memory, running out of memory or something. This is something that we detected proactively. Okay, let's go. Let's take a look.
Yeah, we're adding it, and as of this week, you actually don't have to do anything to get it. It's out of the box. If you have your applications instrumented with New Relic, you'll start to see the anomalies flow in, and you might be curious, like, where can I see them? Well, one of the places you can see them is the activity stream. So here's the example here. You've got anomaly detected on Plan Service a couple hours ago here in the West Coast, 8 a.m.
I like how I noticed this morning that like it tells you right away, hey, this one is over, right? Like it's like all the way to like strike through to be like, yep, this one you can stop worrying about.
Everything is okay.
Yeah. Everything is returned to normal, exactly. And each of them is clickable. You can come in and see our analysis page, which will give you a lot of information on what's specific to that anomaly. You can see here, this is the error rate anomaly. So you can see a breakdown chart. You can see interesting attributes. You can see related signals. This will also show up. That's the home page. So you're going to have lots of apps probably favorited. So you'll see lots of anomalies here. You can also just use this in one of the views, like our summary view in APM. This is Plan Service again. And you can see here that anomaly that we showed earlier shows up on this view. This one is probably the view that folks are more familiar with, or the ones that you're actually using for troubleshooting. You have Plan Service doing something, alerting you, or just you want to go and investigate, you can use the activity stream here.
So just to review here, we have anomalies that are detected. We have warnings or alerts, which is saying, hey, you set up an alert threshold that went over. And we also have deployment markers, which is not what we're talking about today. I just want to kind of note that it's in there because a pretty critical thing that all of this is trying to do, right, is give you context when you know you have a problem, but you don't really know what it might be. Right? You're trying to find a cause, right? And so deployment markers are so key as being part of that to say, hey, if we had a deployment 1 second before all this started, right? That's a pretty good indicator. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and look at this anomaly. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, speaking of deployments, there's more on that later in the show.
Nice.
Nice.
Maybe I should read
foreshadowing.
It's Chekhov's gun.
So this is the activity stream. Great. You got anomalies in there. No action required. Check that out. The other place that this is going to be, I think, interesting for our users is if you.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to you again, Evan. But I just want to point this out that when we see this related anomalies, we're not just seeing this on that one. We have this general term now in New Relic for entity, which means sort of anything that's emitting metrics, right? And we're able to see really quickly here, even if two things are not explicitly linked, I know we're going to talk about links more later in the show, we can see, hey, they are very least they are linked in time, right? Like, hey, these things went down at the same time. And especially, I really like this, that you can sort of see that, hey, this is kind of cascading, right, left to right. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I love that. Yeah. So this is the feed, the anomalies feed. If you go to alerts and AI section, the nav, you can click here into the overview. Super important part of the product right now. You'll have these different feeds, and one of them is the anomaly feed. And starting this week, you may have never used proactive detection. Maybe you have never used any of the AI products. If you have APM data flowing into New Relic, you have your applications instrumented with our agents. Click up here, go to overview, and then go to the anomalies feed, and you should see anomalies in there if we've detected any. And this view, again, you can click into each one, understand what's happening there. There's also some pretty cool, you got to click this little filter thing, but there's some pretty cool, you got the ability to scope this feed down. Let's say we want to go back to our friend, sorry, I zoomed in, the plan service. You can just see anomalies for the plan service. This is the last 3 days. So you can see lots of purple, which means the plan service app seems to be having a decent amount of issues with error rate, which could definitely be worth investigating more. And it's actually our demo environment, so that's expected. We actually, for plan service, but we make it error out a lot. So
Yeah, this is interesting. So I really like the sort of concept of this graph here, which is it's not showing you what the error rate was. It's showing you the number of open anomalies, right, on this service, right? So we're saying we're seeing error rate anomalies like in separate areas or at the same time, right? As we're peaking up. So that's a really interesting. It's like almost like an acceleration graph where it's showing you like the rate of how many alerts you're getting. I really like that.
Yeah. And then just for folks that are thinking, wow, if it's on by default and I don't have to do anything, what about if I want to switch it off or I want to have more control, say the activity stream or even this feed? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. In the feed, you can select by automatic or configured. A configured one is one that you've actually gone in, a set of apps that you've gone in and selected as things that you want to monitor with proactive detection. So that's one way to filter. There's another way which you get to, not surprisingly, via our settings section, but we have visibility preferences pane. So here, again, you may not have to use this, but if you want to, you have complete control. You can basically say, don't show me those anomalies on any of the activity streams, or don't show me those anomalies on the feed. And you can also even go down by the categories. So we have 5 different categories that have signals that we generate anomalies from. And you can say, hey, like I don't want to see non-web throughput, or I don't want to see response time. And that will be at the per user level, super important.
Yes, and this is just what's being displayed in your feed. Sorry, Nate, you were probably about to say something.
Exactly, you read my mind. So I just wanted to double check. Like that's just a visibility setting, and I think that there's something you'll show about the fact that we record the anomalies to NRDB and query them versus display.
Yes. I forgot about that demo, and it's a great question. So good point. If you go in here and say, let's say, I just don't want them in my activity stream. Let's say you even say, I don't want them in the feed. They're always going to be available from NRDB, and they're going to be queryable. So if you do have to go back and look at some anomalies from yesterday, they're always available via our dashboarding, or you can alert on that data as well. So great point.
Yeah, so this is like, and I mean, we should, I guess, be clear in case anybody is like, thinking that this is going to automatically, as of today, start texting your phone 25 times a day, right? All of this, right? This starts with, hey, you see something in your activity feed that says, hey, it looks like you had some weird pattern, and you can turn that off, which is great. Maybe for whatever reason you have your activity feed nice and curated. But when we say it's still an NRDB, it's still in the New Relic database, meaning we can go and write a query for it, and we can look at it. We're not actually erasing that data. We're still collecting it so that you can chart it and view off of it later.
Yeah, exactly. And we do actually have a new, for those that have used proactive detection, the event data, we're changing the event name. So that's important. We're now using NrAiAnomaly. So that's going to be the event name that you can go in and look at. Here, I'm just pulling all the anomalies from the last day in Demotron. And we're using some attributes, or we're matching attributes that also match with NrAI incident event, which is the event that gets written when an alert gets created. So you should be able to go in and play. You can go in and look at your account. If we've detected anomalies, just query this event. You can see the anomalies in your query and dashboard those and play around with that. Lots of flexibility.
Yeah. So, if you're like, completely not interested in this, you're totally happy with NrAiAnomaly as it works now. Right now, you're just seeing that, hopefully your feed of like recent activities is a little more interesting, has a little more important data in it. If you're, I think even if you're just starting out, right, as long as you have something that's receiving like production traffic, like a relatively steady stream of traffic, it seems like it would be useful. I guess that's sort of my question is like, I kind of feel like almost anybody should give this a try to say like, hey, give a shot to configuring this and taking a look. Do you have, recommendations as like who should be going in here and checking it out?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So I think anyone that owns an application or is responsible for managing or on call for an APM application, that data is there now in your account. I would definitely go and look, and you may get an additional vantage point on your systems. Obviously, if you're struggling, maybe not obviously, but if you're struggling with New Relic alerts, or maybe you have some gaps in coverage, this may help solve that. One other thing, just for the demo that I didn't go into, but you touched on it, is that you have this data now available on demand in the NR1 workflows, and it's on automatically and all that. But one of the other things you can do is, if you do want to send it somewhere, you have a couple different options. But one of the ways you can do it is you can go into the settings section again, which I showed earlier. You can go add a configuration. Think of configuration as like a list of apps that I care about. So here, let's just say I've started these 3 apps in the Demotron, like Plant Service, Promo Service, Proxy East. I want all the categories of anomalies. And let's say I want to send it to Slack. I can add this to Slack, and then I'll get notified in Slack or webhook. Or I can actually do this no notifications thing. And this may seem a little confusing because, wait, aren't they already in NRDB automatically?
Yeah.
But the way that you would use this is you would create a configuration, a group of apps that you care about, and then you can use that grouping in a couple ways. But the most important way actually is the next agenda item, which is that we've also announced that these anomalies that I just showed, you can add them as a source for incident intelligence. So before this week, you'd have to use a New Relic alert, or you could use these other sources. We didn't have the ability to take that anomaly information and correlate it. So if you want to do that, you create a configuration like I just showed. You come into sources underneath the incident intelligence section, and then you can see all your existing proactive detection configurations. You can connect them by just switching this on or off. And once you've done that, what happens is that anomaly information is going to flow into incident intelligence, and it will be correlated. What does that mean, correlated? Well, for example, out of the box, if you just do that on switch, you will get a couple global decisions. A global decision is basically like a set of rules that performs correlation. So for example, if you have an anomaly that we detect and you have an alert that we detect on the same entity, we will group those together. Or if you have a set of anomalies that are on the same app, we will also group those together. So for example, Proxy West, again, this is like our demo environment, but this is an issue, a group of things that are grouped together. And with that correlation functionality that I just showed, and you've added anomalies as a source, what we've done is we've said the error rate was higher on Proxy West. AppDex violation happened for a New Relic alert policy. All 3 of these things were grouped together into a single issue. So this is really moving beyond like anomaly detection, right, and into noise reduction and correlation. And anomalies as a source, or adding anomalies, is just one other way that you can add more context to these issues.
Yeah, so this would be, one of the things we could do this is now we could say, hey, I do want to get alerted, woken up, whatever it is, pinged, to say, hey, I do think there is enough of an anomaly here, or enough anomalies here that we do want to alert someone, even if no alert threshold has been crossed. That's part of the benefit, yeah?
Yes, exactly. And you can also do something like, I like the fact that what we've done is, from the activity stream, from the anomaly feed, and even from this issue view, each time if you see an anomaly, you can click into it and get even more in-depth information. But yeah, your point about like using anomalies or having thresholds for anomalies and then sending them to various places, you can think of this announcement with anomalies as a source as really having that anomaly information be able to take advantage of like all the power of incident intelligence and all the functionality that comes with that, which includes like sending it to your various alerting or your various places that you're receiving your pages on.
Yeah. So one thing I really want to call out that we only touched on because it's been out for a little while is, when we talk about people getting started, almost everybody I know who's gotten started successfully and like is really pleased with using like AIOps tools starts with something like a Slack channel, which maybe is even like muted, right? It's just like, hey, we're gonna start by just sending stuff here and then checking in occasionally and looking at it and saying, okay, what is this system trying to tell us? Like what, in general, what's the rate? What kind of stuff comes out of it? And that usually gets people. I mean, I understand that there is some trepidation about AIOps tools, about generating a bunch of noise and not being well filtered. And so having that experience of being like looking in there a couple times a day or a couple times a week and being like, oh, that's, I did not notice that, like maybe even go over to your New Relic dashboards and then hop over and look at that anomalies and be like, what are the patterns that you missed, right? And that just can be so useful. So I want to talk about correlations again for a minute. This is about, we're able to group up entities manually here and say, hey, these are the ones that are connected. Is there an ability to do that like by tag or by some other attribute? I kind of missed that. I wasn't sure if we were just clicking individually or entering names, or is there some way to like do it en masse?
I see Nate can maybe take this.
You sure you don't want to take it? So I'm happy to take it. And I can actually, so later in the show, I'm going to talk about correlating via topology.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course we are. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to get right into that.
Yeah. So when we dig into that, I can spend a little more time talking about just correlation in general, and maybe as I'm kind of working through my demo, highlight a few of the kind of basics and things that we've been doing for the last couple of years. And in addition to the enhancement, but in general, yes, you're right. We have a super flexible, open correlation engine. Those are those decisions. Those are correlation decisions that you can configure. And I'll talk a little bit about what it can do, our approach, and what I call like kind of the 3 pillars of correlation that kind of help take the expert in your systems and encode that into our incident intelligence product so it can do the work that you would normally do as a human and replicate that automatically going forward, just to kind of reduce noise, increase context, all of that.
Love that. Yeah, I love that because, this thing that's kind of standing out to me is that, if I talk to people who are dealing, especially with these big cloud microservice stacks, right? Which, isn't, it could be containers, it could be serverlets, it could be a ton of setups, right? But in general, right, little teams that are empowered to deliver out little tiny pieces of services. And this question of how are these connected keeps coming up. And part of that is, I think what the main thrust here is, which is automatically seeing that they are connected, right? Which we're going to get to in this segment. But the part we're seeing here first is just saying, hey, I know these two things are connected, right? I know that they are part of the same service overall. And so even if there's no, there's no obvious connection, there's no tag connection, I just want to be able to say, hey, when you see anomalies on these two things, please group them together as follows. And that's like, the automatic part is really, really cool. We'll get into that. But just the ability to say, hey, manually, I just want to tell you, like, draw a line between these two is just so critical. Because I remember when you would start, even at large companies, they say, oh, we're going to give you an architecture overview. And it was 20 minutes with a whiteboard. And it was, 9, 10 little circles and boxes, right? Oh, there's a couple of database services, there's this sharding, and there's this, and then there's this piece, and that was done. Right. And I think that that's in the past for almost everyone now.
Yeah, that's right. And you've heard the term like cascading failures, or like it's a small failure that has kind of a larger impact. And maybe these, even though they're resilient systems and some of that blast radius, so to speak, is like still operational, but it's causing telemetry to do from those areas of your environment to do crazy things, which causes alerts to go off, which causes anomalies to be detected. And if you've got good monitoring in place and good detection in place, you're going to have a lot of these symptoms, saying like, hey, here's a symptom, there's a symptom, but it's all part of one issue, right? In a moment in time that needs to be kind of grouped up, synthesized, and kind of handed off to the right teams so they can figure out how to, what that next step in action to resolve it is. And so that's where our correlation engine comes in, is to help kind of group those symptoms together into the larger issue at hand.
So Devin, I feel like we got all excited just talking about sort of the general promise of AIOps. I think you had a little more that you wanted to show us though. So I don't want you to hide your light under a bushel. So we'll let you get back to it.
No bushels, please.
At most 2 pecks, half a bushel. That's the most we're gonna do.
So I know we're going through a lot, which is good, I think, because we are announcing a bunch of stuff this week.